his team and set up other members to carry.
Is that what he said? I think I heard him say press R.
Press R is another way to say utility carries.
All right, well, we'll see. One carry with a little bit of utility, a little bit of damage as well. It's going to be taken off Kalista. Rakan falling out in the bans. We saw Che be an absolute monster on the champion yesterday.
We've also got to focus in on those top laners because Jarvan, very prevalent in the meta right now for Soaz especially. He is pretty strong when he's allowed to get these champions. We saw in Game 5 yesterday what Odoame could do on that particular Gnar. I imagine that for those two in particular, they're going to be taken off the board in this series.
Jarvan already banned away. Xayah banned out as well. Adaptation from the third place series is still there.
Tristana still available. H2K were okay giving it over in the last series. Actually, both Unicorns Love and H2K were fine giving away that champion and sometimes even picking a Xayah above it to get the Xayah-Rakan combination. Obviously not possible because of all the bans in this one, but Tristana is still available as a potential first pick for Fnatic.
I think H2K is fine for this because as they showed yesterday, they have the Sivir as an answer. Good during the laning phase, still scales nicely into the late game too, and provides that utility that we were talking about earlier on.
And they can also take Sejuani now for Jankos, which for sure has been his #1 jungle pick. It's actually been much more impactful than his Gragas. We obviously know that Broxah is okay just taking the Gragas in return, but Sivir Sejuani would be a fairly safe rotation here from H2K. The only other option I'm also looking at is maybe Alistar.
That was the one I was thinking of, Deficio. They might want to just take it off the board because a very strong 2v2 lane for the Tristana plus Alistar, and Alistar's often considered a very strong pick into the Sivir as well.
Now paired with the Sejuani, nice comfort pick coming in for Jankos. Has looked incredibly good on it across these best-of-5 series.
And with the Cassiopeia ban, you don't have to instant lock in your mid laner here because Syndra or Orianna can wait. H2K, obviously with Febiven's pick here on the red side, could lock in their mid lane and ban away 2 from Caps, but I think Gragas Alistar here would be fantastic for Fnatic. Vidish, you already highlighted the fact that Alistar is so good against Sivir, and I actually think H2K are gambling quite a lot in not taking it. Then it tells me Morgana could be one of the answers to it with the Black Shield, but we have not really seen Che value that Morgana lately. And instead he's valued going for more tanky supports.
They may very well go for the Tahm Kench as a potential answer to the Alistar, but there's an element of risk in that you do lose a lot of pressure during the 2 versus 2 lane. And as we saw in that third place match, you really can't afford to give Rekkles and Jezz that kind of advantage in the bottom lane because of how much pressure they can apply.
And they go with the mid lane choice we also highlighted before, and they can now ban away 2 mid lane champions from Caps aside. Like Lucian could be one of them. Corki we've seen picked as well against the Orianna, but of course Syndra is the one champion that Caps keeps finding success on. Undefeated so far in playoffs with the Syndra.
Definitely a good look for Caps, but Orianna, one of those picks that was banned away consistently yesterday in H2K's series versus the Unicorns of Love. Have to wonder what Fnatic's go-to option is going to be for this matchup, and if they're going to get their hands on that Syndra. Feels a little unlikely to me. Cassio was also an incredibly prominent pick in the series yesterday, undefeated across the 5 games. But mid lane feels like the name of the game right now for both these lineups.
Meanwhile, on Fnatic's side, they can look at support bans if they want to. Once again, some of the defensive supports can be annoying for Alistar. Trundle is a good pick against him. We've even seen Braum being used, but Tahm Kench Morgana are some of the ones who can deny his engage. The fact that Che has not really shown this Morgana lately might mean that Fnatic just leave it open and say, you know what, we don't care about it. And it is actually kind of a flex pick they remove in Trundle support and potentially Trundle top lane.
Trundle top's one of those picks that I feel like we haven't seen as much success on in Europe, but teams have been very willing to pick it, and I think still have to give it that respect, as you mentioned. And we've seen what Jezz can do when he is uncontested, but arguably more important, Syndra now has been banned out, so the options for Caps are now shrinking. Not a whole ton left.
Part of me wonders if he will go for the Taliyah. We haven't really seen much of the champion recently after the...
You love that Taliyah, man.
I know, because I think she's really good, and I also think that she fits the playstyle of Caps very nicely, being able to roam around the map. It is an option, but things like the Corki and Lucian, as you already said earlier, Deficio, still very strong mid-lane picks. In terms of what is also left, we haven't really seen much priority on top laners for either side. We saw a lot of Maokai come out from the Unicorns of Love yesterday.
We have to remember the blind pick rumble was used quite a bit yesterday by, of course, both top laners, but that was often with Jace already like being removed. In this game here, it is the Cho'Gath being locked in for down in the top lane. He will have the speed up of the Sivir ulti to further kind of help him get into these fights, and of course the main engage is coming from Jankos.
Nice to have as well. Puts Fnatic in a bit of a pickle if they want to go for, never mind, Aurelion Soul time. All right, there are 2 people in the world who I'm not entirely surprised by pick Aurelion Sol, and that is Huhi on CLG and Caps. We've seen him play it once. I'm excited to see it now, Betty, as I can see you just go.
Flashbacks.
Go free.
No, but the first thing that comes to me is flashbacks. Quarterfinal in spring, Fnatic versus H2K. We saw the Aurelion Sol come out from Fnatic, and H2K, they had no answers. Utter destruction came out from Caps when he was playing this champion. The first time he brought it out was in Challenger. He got himself a pentakill on it. This is a champion that was made for him. And I'm really excited to see him bring it out in this draft once more.
So much engaged now as well. 2 major damage threats, an exciting competition coming in from the side of Fnatic. But H2K, they've got that terrifying Sivir, Braum combo, Braum, Sejuani as well. There are a lot of ways to start fights, a lot of tools to disengage as well. And I want to look at what each of these compositions is looking to do.
And I feel like whenever we see a good Aurelion Sol, it's just so hard to play against. It's so impactful in the games. It changes the entire way you're playing the map, because whenever you're trying to push a side lane, you're kind of thinking to yourself, oh wait, there might be an Aurelion Sol flying over a wall. I just looked up the Season 7 stats around the world for Aurelion Sol. Picked 14 times, won 10 games, only lost 4. Fantastic win rate for a champion across the world, and it's because there's so few players who can actually play it. But when they do, they tend to just carry the games.
Excited to see it. Last time we saw it in the hands of Caps was not just the quarterfinals, Vedius, but the semifinals up against G2.
And perm banned right after.
Exactly. Do not want to deal with it. Unconventional pick, not one that teams are ready for, but definitely not out of the meta just because it's not powerful enough. Have to see what it can bring to the table. This is your chance. Head on over to Twitter at LOL Esports, hashtag FNCWin or hashtag H2KWin. Let us know who you think is going to take the series and the 3rd seed for Europe at Worlds.
It's a rematch of the 3rd place match in Paris. H2K, they fell short, but they went to all 5 games, and today that's what I'm hoping for once more. The full 5, all the way. That's how we should end the EU LCS of summer.
I'm ready, Vedius. Here we go. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1. Fnatic coming in on the blue side. H2K on the red. Taking eyes on the mid lane, Vedius. Junglers are going to be important as well, but while we're waiting for this laning phase to kick off, I want to talk about Aurelion Sol and Orianna.
Yeah, forget junglers right now, Dragos. It's all about these mid 2. Purely because this is actually a really good matchup for Aurelion Sol. He has one of the strongest level 1 pushes in the game thanks to his W. Basically, he's just going to pop it, and he's just going to stand in lane. Orianna is just going to have a really rough time, constantly being forced underneath her tower by the constant push that Aurelion Sol has. And one of the big advantages that he also has is that Orianna has to get quite close to you in order to do a fair amount of damage, which means that as long as Caps just focuses on wave clearing and zoning the Orianna away, it's going to be really difficult for Featherven to really apply pressure against the A-Sol.
I want to zoom away from just the 1v1 between the Aurelion Sol and the Orianna and talk also about Caps, you know, when it comes to roaming, because that's of course the main purpose of Aurelion Sol. It's not to solo kill whoever you are facing. Top lane, he has CC set up from a Maokai. Bot lane, there's a Alistar who can always combo a Sivir. She cannot spell shield the full combo from Alistar. So there are 2 lanes he can roam to where there is some setup. Now, one of the problems for Aurelion Sol and why some players do not like him at the moment is because against tanks, it's somewhat difficult for him to deal enough damage. It's obviously very good against squishy targets. With the full combo, you can almost burst them down. But at Cho'Gath and a Sejuani in the late game, they don't really care too much about Aurelion Sol's damage. So he needs to do well early on in the game and start getting some advantages.
Braum's shield is also going to be really obnoxious because it can mitigate a lot of the damage coming out from the Aurelion Sol. And as you rightly said, so many frontline options that he's going to have to struggle to deal with. Means that a lot of the damage reliance will be on Caps around the mid-game. So it's going to be important for Caps to move around to this lane. It looks like that rather than go for an early push, he's just going to keep things fairly even for the time being.
I think getting a level 2 for Alistar in the bottom lane could signal one of the early roams down to try and kill Nuclear and Che. That's the thing about Aurelion Sol is you can even talk about level 1 roams.
You can, yeah.
You can roam at any time in the game, and that's one of the scary things. He's looking top for now.
He's already off.
He has a ward though. He's probably just here to get some vision on where Jankos is, and that's exactly what he's noticing. Actually, Jankos is hiding in the brush, but he's picking it.
Not 100% confirmed there, but we'll have a general knowledge of where Jankos is going to be. Move back to the mid lane. Featherven's still holding his own, but as you mentioned, Vedius, not quite as aggressive with the Celestial expansion until now. He's trying to bully him out at least a little bit.
The trick with Aurelion Sol is every time the Orianna tries to walk towards you, you always walk slightly back because she's always going to be just out of range with your max use of the W. Now, we have a lot of trading down in the bottom lane.
They're playing pretty aggressive. We talk about the potential for Aurelion Sol to snowball some of these lanes. I think bot lane is one of the lanes we have to talk about because we have seen such fantastic performances coming in from Reckless across their previous series in the third place match.
Exactly, like #1 in so many different stats. The Summer Split MVP as well, and really stepped up even more in playoffs, where it was very clear that Fnatic had to rely a lot on him because Caps was often the target for early ganks, and he would fall behind, and then the main damage dealer and the main carry would be Reckless.
Nuclear now in trouble, leaping past, trying to make it past the Unbreakable. Exhaust is down. Nuclear running for his life. Reckless hungry for the kill. Is this going to be the first blood taken down?
And it happens once again. We talked so much about how the bottom lane of H2K fell short to Reckless and Jez's in Paris, and already 4 minutes into the game, they get themselves first blood.
And when we look back, Reckless across the split, the one champion that has constantly been in his pool is the Tristana. Even in the Kennen era, when that was banned away, he did not get to play it a single time in playoffs. But now in the regional qualifier, he's getting his hands on it again, and it's looking good. Moving for more. That's the second kill.
Just like in Paris in Game 1, Fnatic's bottom lane destroy Nuclear and Che. H2K, they had the option to take that Alistar for themselves to avoid this all-in on a Civet. They didn't do it. They let it open. Okay, so they're playing against it. And now look how Reckless will try and jump past the Braum shield after the all-in has already happened. So he appears on the other side of Che, meaning he can still hit Nuclear. There's just no way for Nuclear to really fully avoid this engage, because whenever the all-in comes from Alistar, the headbutt will absorb the spell shield, and then the knock-up will land right after that. And Che's trying to be a good support, hold the wave for his AD carries on the way back, but he's taking too much damage.
That was a very greedy play there from Che. Didn't respect Reckless's ability to roam, and speaking of roaming...
Oh, the action does not stop. First appearance from Aurelion Sol in another lane. Maokai is here. Star Surge goes in. A little bit of damage. Celestial Expansion should be able to clean this one up. Flash forward from Caps. Brings it back in. Yet another kill for Fnatic.
Febiven is on his way. He's only level 5, however, and Jankos is not there just yet. Febiven will just have to take the wave, and as we mentioned here, there's CC set up in top lane, CC set up in the bottom lane. So Caps is set up to succeed in this game here, as long as he can keep leaving his mid lane.
And I love seeing this playstyle from Caps, because one of the big things we talked about for Fnatic was jungle pressure from Broxah. Is he investing his resources mid? Where is he trying to gank? And we saw a lot of success for Fnatic when Caps was the one being invested into, because the bottom lane can very often hold their own. If you can just get a few resources onto this mid lane, this young individual that has proven himself, then you can really do successfully. But now he can actually move across the map, and he's already doing it so far.
Right, and with the bottom lane winning on its own 2v2, with the fact that Caps can then focus top lane, you can very quickly get 3 pushing lanes for Fnatic, where suddenly H2K are pushed so far back on the map, it's very hard to do anything. Sejuani wants to get level 6 before she really joins in. The Cho'Gath, we know he's a slow scaler up in the top lane as well, so H2K might find themselves under so much pressure in this early game that they can barely do anything.
And back in champions like Vedius, you brought the Talia, a roaming champion. Aurelion Sol, still that roaming champion. Maybe not what you expected. Definitely giving Caps the edge. To check the itemization as well.
He's back top lane.
Coming out. He is on a mission. It's going to be the lock up to CC. Star Surge moves forward. That's a body slam to follow up. Ottawamne, you wanted to play League of Legends. Sorry. That's too much chain CC.
Repeated ganks up in the top lane. The flash is unavailable for Odo. The setup is there from Broxah, and so as Caps has more than enough damage to get the follow-up. And Fnatic, they're off to a great game 1.
And I have a sneaking suspicion this is going to look a lot like the series versus G2 in spring semifinals, in the sense that he's not going to get to play Aurelion Sol again, guys.
Well, the big thing to remember is that right now, Caps is doing well. He's been able to move around the map, but it's also because of the comp that's built around the Aurelion Sol. We talked a lot earlier on about how he has the setup. You have a Maokai with all the CC. You have a Gragas, too, who can provide that additional bit of damage and utility in the early game, and your bottom lane is winning the 2 versus 2. So the whole comp around Caps is enabling him to play this kind of style as well.
I just love the fact that I've been kind of poking Caps the entire split, being like, where's your Aurelion Sol? Come on, we want to see the Aurelion Sol. He's like, no, I'm saving it for Faker. That's what he kept saying. Now I think he realized that he might have to use it here against H2K to even get to play Faker.
Slayer, you know?
Faker Slayer, that also counts, but if he wants to move on to the phase we can actually face SKT, he needs to win this best of 5 today, and that's why he's pulling out that Aurelion Sol, saving it for an entire split for this best of 5.
And this has to feel good for Fnatic. Once again, this is the series that will send them to Worlds if they can win it. No holds barred, not holding anything back here against H2K.
And you know that probably the H2K coach is sitting backstage right now looking at all these pick and ban plans and being super annoyed, because suddenly if you feel like you're forced to ban Aurelion Sol in every single game, it just changes so many things, because those 3 plant bans you had on each side, they're suddenly gone right now because there needs to be room for that Aurelion Sol. And it's a tough one now for H2K, but obviously this game is not completely over just yet. It's just looking very difficult for H2K to win.
So let's talk a little bit about H2K. They've got Sivir, they've got the late game potentially on Orianna, but how do they stop the bleeding? How do they stop Caps from just continuously making an impact in all these lanes?
Well, one of the key things is being able to have vision on some of the entrances to your half of the jungle. You can see that in the top side, H2K have already put some wards through the river, so they can be a little bit more prepared for when Caps try to move around the map. And the other thing is, Jankos needs to be a little bit more aware of when he can try and get those counter ganks off too. He's invested a lot of time to the bottom side, as Caps is already making his way top. They read it, but I don't know if they can react in time.
Still no flash.
Forward, Comment of Legend. Star Surge moves in. Good damage onto Odoamne, trying to do what he can. Voice of Light comes out to knock him back. The silence does stop the Stars for a brief moment. Caps is pushed back, so Odoamne is going to hold on. Flash out for Broxton to make it to safety. This is punting Che out of the fight. Jankos there as well. Needs to hit the blast cone if he wants to stop the escape. Jesus still has ult, still has flash, folks. Should not be dangerous. But it looks like he may just get taken down. If he flashes over, the ball is there waiting for him. Jesus is going to drop. Well played by H2K.
But Fnatic still get themselves the first tower of the game. Yes, they end up losing Jesus, but it doesn't cost them much as Caps.
Fantastic sidestep. Double Star Surge. Should still be taken down. The flash forward. That's going to be it. H2K firing back immediately.
So right there, H2K actually have the support being topside already, and good roam from Febiven as well to try and match the Aurelion Sol. Fnatic ended up diving too deep to try and kill Odoamne and just didn't have follow-up damage. Source couldn't join the fight. And suddenly H2K actually responded with 2 kills. And talking about them being pushed down and how difficult it is, getting 2 kills like this is huge for them. Sadly, they still end up losing 2 towers because they were basically losing these lanes before that play happened.
And now at 10 minutes, we see more than 2K gold, almost 3K gold in the favor of Fnatic. Pretty terrifying prospect.
And your eyes are now just being drawn towards Febiven, because while Caps has been roaming around the map, trying to set up both his side laners, he has been falling at a slight deficit in terms of farm. And now the fact that Febiven has picked up 2 kills of his own, completing the Morellonomicon at 10.5 minutes in the game is a very early power spike for this Orianna to hit.
And the thing is, when you play against Aurelion Sol, often it can be hard to try and counter gank the side lanes. So you actually often want to try and go mid yourself and just try and fight against the Aurelion Sol head on. If you can use Sejuani ultis to try and maybe force Caps out a lane, maybe you can secure a kill with your very fed Orianna now, then you actually get a lot of pressure mid and you can try and get the mid tower. It's just so hard to do because he leaves that lane so often, and he's also running Cleanse in this game. He's trying to avoid that all in from Jankos.
We look at how far behind some of these individual laners are. Odoamne, especially on the top side, really struggling up against the Maokai. This is not where H2K want to be whatsoever. Luckily for them, Jankos is finally putting attention to the top side. But when we look back to yesterday, Odo was the key player in so many of those games for H2K, but now in this deficit, it is going to take him a long time to come back.
Yeah, and funny enough, Odoamne stepped away from Cho'Gath yesterday. They banned it against Unicorns a lot every single game they played, and he was on champions like Gnar, where he was actually super impactful and he could do more in the early to mid game. This one here, I don't even think Odoamne played poorly. I just think he was left in a situation where it's almost impossible to do anything. You're against like a CC champion right in front of you in Maokai, a roaming Aurelion Sol, and a jungler that can't shoot.
And that's the thing, right?
Like,
no one's
what are you
scared of
gonna do?
Maokai in the landing phase. They're scared of who's ever coming to do the damage while Maokai holds you down.
So Odoamne couldn't really do a whole lot. It was all about trying to control the Aurelion Sol in the mid lane. But they didn't manage to do that early. They got 2 kills though. That's something for H2K. They need more.
And Vedius, the early Morellonomicon did come out, but I feel like Caps just doesn't have to trade against Febiven. He has enough mana now that he just ignores him, just pushes the lane.
Yes, you're right. In terms of the 1v1, it doesn't mean a huge amount because Caps is never going to try and kill him or fight him. But in terms of the actual fights, it's a very big deal for H2K because you have to remember that their composition is built around fighting, playing around things like the Baron, the Dragon, just forcing Fnatic into these 4-5v5s where Caps will have less of an impact against these big tanks is where H2K still have that ability to come back into the game.
And H2K have to surrender the Rift Herald here, not because of Aurelion Sol, but because the bottom lane from Fnatic, Reckless and Jess is pushed out to the lane, moved up into mid lane. Actually, Yankees trying to steal it.
Forward, not going to get it.
Oh, that's risky.
Broxah grabs it. H2K not in a position to contest. Caps playing with fire as he walks back and forth there. Will use the Common of Legend to make it out to safety. Back to the middle lane. But I like that H2K are still trying to fire shots, still trying to come back into this game. Does connect on Jez's. Worst person, though, to hit in this instance.
Ult for ult trade as H2K now start to group up in the middle lane. They just wanted to push it out, get some pressure. They do now have vision around the river, but it's not really going to do them much as they've already lost the Rift Herald.
And I think the thing we're forgetting about is that they're at the top side of the map, they're fighting back and forth. Yes, H2K are in a deficit, but if we look at the bottom side, look at Reckless versus Nuclear right now. Nuclear was not a weak point against the Unicorns of Love, I think it's safe to say. But here, against Reckless, that is a big issue for H2K.
And it's one of the reasons they did struggle in the third place game down that bottom lane. And it's hard as a team if you pick, you know, what you consider a fairly safe lane, the Sivir Braum combination. They used it yesterday as well. It was actually fairly successful because they had so much protection to just not die in the laning phase.
Yep.
You then still go in and you die so early. Just 2v2, no junglers, nothing was there. Completely outplayed because of the Alistar engage and then Reckless jumping past the Braum shield. It makes it so difficult for the rest of H2K to play this game here. Jankos constantly needs to look at all these lanes that are getting pushed in, and if he knows if he ganks anything, he might just get counter-ganked instantly and die.
When we look at gold leads right now for Fnatic, half of it into the back pocket of Reckless, the other half in SOAS. Caps is in a little bit of a deficit comparatively, is suffering in the CS department. Febiven in control of that lane.
But what Fnatic are trying to do now is get that mid lane tower down. So ideally they can move Reckless and Jess to mid lane and then use the Rift Herald at the same time. So they have like a 5-man group or 4-man group to push in the objective. H2K, they know. They need to just protect mid lane. If you keep playing around mid, Aurelion Sol will lose a lot of his value. And that's what H2K have been doing for the last few minutes to stop the bleeding, is constantly protect the mid lane.
And notice how they're moving Nuclear between mid and bot all the time. So you have that additional bit of wave clear from both the Orianna and the Sivir too, making it that bit harder for Fnatic to get the optimal setup to then use the Rift Herald. But now they're trying to extend a bit of their own vision so that they can apply a little bit more pressure and try to set up the play.
Of course, vision on Broxah does give H2K an open ticket to the bottom side of the map into Fnatic's jungle. But right now it is just a vision trade. A little more control for H2K on one side, a little more for Fnatic on the other.
The thing is, Reckless and Jess is still around mid. Now they're using that Rift Herald we just talked about with the AD carry and support there. After bot lane had been pushed in and Nuclear had to clear it, this is the setup to get that mid lane tower. Nice zoning ult from SOAS.
Already ulted, not just going to be zoning, going to connect on multiple members, pushing in. Voice of Light just keeps them knocked back. Not going to have any chance to approach the tower.
Easy take from Fnatic. Played that very cleanly. All they had to do was be patient, wait for the right moment, and they take down that final tier 1. Now the tier 2's become a little bit harder to take down, but with the gold lead that Fnatic have been able to build up for themselves, only 16 minutes into this game, they're feeling pretty happy with how things are going.
Reckless can actually stay in side lanes for basically, you know, the entire mid game because he knows whenever he's pushing the side, Aurelion Sol can join before an Orianna can join. These fights are even gonna try and find Jankos.
Oh, Jankos is gonna get knocked back. Good aggressive play coming in from Broxah and Jez is together, but Nuclear is there. Throwing out a few autos, but on the hunt in the end, Burn just to get Jankos to safety.
So a bit of a trade there for a Gromp. Fnatic, they wanted to try and get something. At the very least, a flash from Jankos would have been nice. But they will just take Nuclear's ultimate instead. And as you already said, Reckless now continuing to push in the bottom lane. And he now knows that there's no jungle support there as well.
And we want to see Fnatic just go instantly for Drake. Like, keep stacking as many Drakes as possible. If you can't kill tier 2 towers, take all the objectives in the river. 2 or 3 Drakes for yourself, then you start focusing Baron right after, and you're setting yourself up for success when an Elder Drake spawns if you haven't finished the game by then. So the timing is important. It doesn't matter which Drake it is, you just want to kill it so you can now get the next Drake, which of course could be an Infernal Drake, and funny enough, it is for Fnatic this time around. So there's a chance to get double Infernal while keeping this big advantage. Reckless push the bot lane, no one can stop him, and Caps can always roam down in case he's needed.
Reckless just maintaining that 30 CS advantage at this point in the game. Baron not on the table yet, as you mentioned, but an Infernal will be up shortly. Baron 3 minutes away. Rift Herald taken up. That means it's going to be a little bit harder for Fnatic to find objectives to play to, but they definitely have the gold lead. H2K still can't afford to take fights. SOAS may still have to be careful here. He is the only member on the top side of the map. Only the threat of the missing members of Fnatic stops H2K from going for this game.
But it's now that point in the game where it's a lot of patience. The game will slow down a lot more, and it becomes a battle of vision, because you are correct, right? The Baron hasn't spawned. Even when it does spawn, that doesn't mean that Fnatic instantly want to try and rush it down. It's all about now just extending your vision line deeper and deeper. Maybe try and find those picks, but primarily stealing away whatever you can from the H2K side and looking for those opportunities of single players maybe being alone in the side lane.
And Nuclear, of course, is the single player alone in the side lane. You saw Reckless hiding over the wall, waiting to make a play. And I gotta say, it's not a Kennen, but this does feel a little bit like early season Fnatic. Maybe not quite as aggressive. No Shen, not 100% playing around Reckless, but Reckless doing his best to make it happen either way.
I think they're still for H2K. They're doing kind of the only thing they can do right now is just protect tier 2 towers, try and get some of your jungle camps and get defensive vision. And all you're kind of hoping for is that Fnatic will overstep at some point, and then you get that big punish where suddenly 2 or 3 guys from Fnatic maybe engage without backup, and you can TP in, you can re-engage with Jankos or Che. For now, they just have to accept that it's relying on Fnatic's mistake more than H2K's outplay.
Still a little bit poking. Trying to get everything they can. That is, you already mentioned it earlier. Fighting for every little thing. Last time
He
it took
even
Blom.
ults for the Raptor. Wow, okay. I think that's taking the strat a little to the
Look,
extreme.
Vedius, farm is really important, and he's competing against Reckless right now, and that's like not a fair fight. So you gotta make it count, man. You gotta be willing to ult those Raptors.
Nuclear even gives over the red buff to Jankos. That might be a, you know what, I don't want to risk holding onto this buff, or maybe he just thinks that he can have a little bit more value on it. But interesting, they moved Odo now into the Reckless lane. And that's giving Fnatic a little bit more confidence.
You see why Odo Wamne, despite having the Righteous Glory, still takes so much damage. 2 items completed by the Tristana, not even 20 minutes into the game, but still more gold in his pocket.
I would like Broxah to be on the bottom side here, not the top side, just to constantly protect Reckless and Jesse so they can actually get damage on the tier 2 tower, because we know the TP can come in from source, and we know Aurelion Sol can move within a few seconds. They only need Broxah to be on that side. He's the only one who can just instantly jump across the map, and he's here now to set up another push and a blue buff steal.
Jankos got the red buff. Thought that it might be safer hands. Might not be anymore. Padre giving him a bit of extra movement speed. Now moving forward. That's the aggressive engage. Cask not going to connect.
Oh, let's see. Okay, he gets out. Like, we've been praising Fnatic a lot, but I think right here, this is a bit sloppy from them. Like, there's no way H2K should be able to get a blue buff on the bottom side where Reckless is sitting with a 2-0 Tristana.
Aurelion Sol is poking down, but there is no wave here. Fnatic just grasping at straws on the bottom side, looking for some kind of bigger advantage.
I feel like Fnatic are getting a little antsy right now. They only have to play the patient game. They're the ones in control of the map. You can see they've got a lot of vision invested into the bot side. They had the ability to at least take control, and instead they're giving these small things over to H2K.
Yeah, they simply just needed Broxah to be on bot side, get vision around that blue buff, completely denied from H2K, and then let Reckless get a few more hits on bot lane tower. That's all they needed to do until Baron or this Infernal Drake were ready to be taken. Nuclear, for some reason, is pushing forward.
Oh, Buster shot comes in. Reckless with a solo kill onto Nuclear.
And well, that's another way you can get that
that's
tower.
an alternative
that's how you
option.
do it. You just rely on the enemy AD carry to walk forward and die.
It wasn't Broxah that was the problem, it was Nuclear. He wasn't in the right position to get solo killed.
So now Fnatic, they're going to extend their lead even further. They've been able to take their 4th tower of the game to H2K's 0. And this was one of the big points that we had coming into this cast. How will Nuclear and Che perform against Fnatic's bottom lane once again? We wanted to see them get some kind of strong 2v2 lane. They decided not to go for it, and already falling short. And it's just Fnatic's bottom lane taking full control right now. It gives all the freedom for Caps and Soaz to do literally whatever they want. And now Jankos is finally trying to get something back, but it's a Tristana. It's extremely difficult to punish.
Reckless smart enough, smells it. He's been there too many times before, knows that he needs to back off. Fnatic still pulling out so many big advantages. 6K gold lead 20 minutes into the game. 2 dragons backing them up. Could easily win the fight for the Infernal.
Now Fnatic should just send Reckless back to bot lane, push it out one more time, secure the Infernal Drake, and then swap Reckless to top side of the map. Let him push the top lane all the way to that tier 2 tower and start setting up for Baron. The composition is strong enough. You have a tank in the Gragas who just needs a bit of armor to fully stand in front of this Baron here and protect his carries. And then suddenly you can guarantee full river control again. And Reckless and Jessus will do exactly that. We just need the Infernal Drake to spawn in 15 seconds, and they should be able to guarantee a 3rd one. I want to see if H2K wants to fight, though. They have 2 items on February. They did it yesterday against Unicorns a lot. Sorry, against Spice. where they pulled the trigger, when they were behind, they were pushed down, and they actually came back in the game because of it. Problem is, you're pushed back in so many lanes, it's difficult to do. And your AD carry is also top lane.
Maybe just hoping to get a tower. Trade it for the Drake. They know it did just spawn. Reckless going to start to solo it. The rest of Fnatic is moving to the mid lane. They see H2K aren't going to contest and are not concerned about committing any more resources there.
It actually is probably the best thing they could do. You know they're going to get Infernal Drake. You don't feel like you can fight it because you're pushed back. Just take a tower. Trade a tower for the Drake. Get some gold for your team. It's the first one they get in this game, the first outer turret for H2K.
And if it results in the second item for Nuclear, then I think it's fine for H2K, because now Reckless, he's at 3 items. That's basically a very deadly Tristana. They don't even need the Ardent Sensor. You're already going to be extremely strong the moment these fights kick off. And when you think about killing that front line, yeah, that front line's going to be really scared, especially with the little armor that they have to deal with this Tristana right now.
Gargoyle Stoneplate on the way, but since it's not completed, it's going to be a tough ask for Ottawamne and Jankos to really survive Reckless in the front lines.
Now we see Reckless push top lane, move into River. We got to see all the control wards coming down from Fnatic. Start getting full River control, and H2K's way back in this game here is to win a fight around the Baron or maybe get a smite steal from Jankos to delay the game even further and get Sivir into the late game. Fnatic should not allow this to happen. They should have full control of this jungle. Reckless even gets... No, actually, Che got the red buff.
Not full control because Che got the red buff. And those are the
small
little
wins,
advantages.
Man. You do not want to give that red buff over to the enemy AD carry, so... Small win.
Really, that's all H2K can play for. The trade, Dragon for tower, red buff stolen away. Not a lot of other options right now on the map.
But for Fnatic, their option is pretty clear. Start to pressure this Baron area, getting vision around the top side, playing around the objective, and either force H2K to come and check it, where you can either get yourself a pick or maybe force a favorable fight when Nuclear is at such a disadvantage to his opposition AD carry. Alternatively, they can just rush it down, depending on whether H2K want to try and commit. And right now, it feels like H2K, they're very aware. They do not want to give up this Baron because it will result in their base falling apart.
I think Fnatic could have actually reset there, gone back to base, restock up on control wards, and then returned out on the map. But they seem like actually all of HK just walked away from the Baron. They have one ward outside it, but they need to move fast.
So the single ward is going to give it away. Jankos is here, Nuclear here as well. Fnatic, though, not taking nearly as much damage from the Baron as expected this early in the game. They now see the TP ward. Fnatic are now backing off. 2K health on the Baron. Cho'Gath is in the middle of the team. He's going to take so much damage, but the Gargoyle Stoneplate is keeping him healthy. Jez is looking for the disengage, taking a lot of damage back in return. Fab been over the wall, does use the shockwave. Che blocking what he can. H2K are holding on. Fnatic still alive, but the Baron not going to drop.
Really good Unbreakable there from Che to keep Ottawamne alive. It blocked the ultimate from Caps, which means that both top laners TP'd in, both used Flash as well. They did what they could to just stall for their own teams, but it was H2K that was able to prevent Fnatic from taking down the Baron.
Exactly, Fnatic did not go back and get all the new wards to try and fully clear out the vision. They said, you know what, H2K seem to have left the area. We can try and rush it. I think actually overall it was a fine call from them, but H2K with good defense so far, and very importantly, they delay the game a bit. Problem is for them, whenever they recall, they know there's a chance this Baron gets rushed down. There's also an Infernal Drake coming up for a third one for Fnatic. They're starting this Baron once again.
Fnatic assuming that the recalls have already come through for H2K, but they are here. Ottawamne on the way, but no TP means he could be too late to the party. Eyes on Jankos. The pressure on in this series to steal this away. Soaz is going in. Jankos is going to get interrupted. Will not make it over the wall, but the fight is no longer about the Baron. Che pushed back. Unbreakable, going to keep him safe. Fnatic still in control of the pit.
But once again, H2K stopped the Baron from going down. It was a good interrupt there from Jez's to deny Jankos getting into the pit, but the only summoner spell that was used was the flash from Che. H2K holding on to this Baron very effectively, and this is largely because Fnatic are not pushing their vision deep enough. They're always just starting off the Baron, allowing H2K to come, and then trying to make the fight happen around the objective itself.
The good thing though for Fnatic is they always push the lanes first. So H2K get denied quite a lot of CS in these side lanes while they're busy trying to stop the Baron. And Fnatic don't actually fully use too many like flashes or ultis while fighting around it because they are in full control. Now HK needs to push back the lanes. Fnatic can go grab them once again. And again, worst case for Fnatic, they just go down and get that third Infernal Drake and then go right back to the Baron. So they're technically not that much on the clock just yet. Mainly also because they have a Tristana who is super fit.
And of course, we are still at least 10 to 15 minutes away before that Sivir becomes a late game win condition. Orianna is getting stronger. 3 items now completed. But it's going to take a lot of ults hitting a lot of people simultaneously for H2K to come out on top in one of these fights right now. Difficult ask going up against Reckless with his long range. Doesn't really have to be next to anybody.
Remember that TPs are still down as well. The thing about Aurelion Sol is he can just push out the bot lane, and because of his mobility, can very quickly roam up towards the Baron. And Odo, he won't have that same ability on the Cho'Gath. So as long as Fnatic can play with the fact that both top laners have TPs down, they will have this pressure and force H2K to always lose this farm at the bottom lane.
Moving in though, Odoamne could be the one that's caught out. No flash. In trouble as he's going to get pulled back. Unbreakable is nowhere near Odoamne. Che does move forward to keep him alive. Disengage, trying to come out. Nuclear uses on the hump. Bevan hits back with the shockwave, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Reckless still at half health. H2K being pushed back, but it's a slow, grindy team fight. Che, the only casualty.
Fnatic, they just force a fight straight onto Odoamne. He doesn't have his flash due to the last fight. He tried to use the stone plate, but Fnatic were relentless. They take down that front line, and they even get the flash from Jankos. So now they feel very confident to start this Baron.
Oh, Source is hiding behind H2K in case they try and go in and fight this Baron here. He's moving his way down now, trying to get onto Febiven.
Eyes for the twisted advance. Caps now moving forward. Who's he going to lock up? Knows there's no spell shield on Febiven. He's going to get pushed back. Nice flail comes in from Jankos to slow up the competition.
Stop the Baron again, though, here from H2K's side. Even getting a bit of damage in the mid lane tower. We've seen these team fights here, how Caps is not able to assist with that much damage against the big front line of H2K, so they're very much just relying on Reckless at the moment. Third Infernal Drake is alive, but that big wave in the bottom lane is already at the tower. Same for top lane. It's a lot of minions dying right now that H2K do not get to kill. But though will get some.
Yeah, it's going to be good news for Odoamne. Can use the feast once again to grab yet another stack. Fnatic seeing this opportunity are going to move forward. Jankos does not want to give this up, but he's going to have to. Triple Infernals for Fnatic in the hands of Reckless on Tristana. That is a terrifying prospect.
Fnatic have had good control over these Infernal Drakes. A lot of it has come down to the success of the bottom lane of Fnatic, who once again have been able to perform. Consistently dominating their opposition in Nuclear and J, and now once again Fnatic move back towards this Baron. They are yet to really take it. They're still struggling to properly set up deep vision around the top half of H2K's jungle, but they feel pretty confident to try and force a fight right now.
They've made sure there was no 50-50. Jankos have done a very good job always kind of hovering just behind the Baron, being like, yeah, if you get it low enough, I will get in there and I will try and steal it. And then Fnatic just disengage away from it. Of course, they can use Alistar to maybe deny him, Brox's ulti. There are ways to try and knock Jankos away now that there's no flash on the Sejuani, if they want to start the Baron again. But of course, they need good vision behind the Baron pit to do that, and it's always a risk.
And looking at this game, from the expectations we had from this series, we thought a lot of differences in macro strategy, thought the teams would play it out, but we have to look back. Fnatic built this lead on individual skill on the bottom side of the map, and it's crazy. Now we're at the much calmer macro game, but this is not what we expected from the early game. The Aurelion Sol pick coming in, the surprise pick coming out, the dominance on the bottom side looking good as well.
4 items now for Reckless. It's a little terrifying, Dracos. Being that strong on a Tristana at 31 minutes into the game.
We've been here as the composition full of tanks against the 4 to 5 item AD carry.
We have.
H2K will have to rely on Febiven. 2-0. They're actually looking for a fight as well. Aurelion Sol in the mid lane might get caught out.
Now Star Surge going the wrong way, but not even needed. They're just going to make it to safety.
It's important the fact that it actually gives more movement speed for Caps when he follows it in that direction. So he's using it just to escape, as like a mini ghost, basically, to get out of range of the Cho'Gath knockup. Mr. Fnatic now knows there's no Sivir ulti, was used just before. They're now starting the Baron. No flash on Jankos to try and get over that pit easily. He has to dash over it, and that can get denied.
So as using the Blast Cone as an escape and will deny another entrance opportunity for Jankos. Another TP being burnt. Fnatic still not going to try to burn this down. They are going to force the fight, though, here. Feast does it! H2K are going to snag the Baron. They're flashing out to safety. So much damage in the pit as well. H2K, no on the hunt means they cannot chase this one down, but a beautiful steal from Odoamne.
Love the decision-making there from H2K. They realize, you know what, let's just burst it. We're tired of playing around this Baron. They go for the commitment. The feast from Odoamne, the smite from Jankos, followed up by a great 5-man shockwave from Febiven. Everything just comes together to allow H2K to walk away with the Baron.
Yeah, that Baron dropped so low that when H2K jumped into the pit to keep it in the action here, it actually didn't reset. And suddenly, Odama is like, yeah, I got Feast. It's better than Smite.
And up until this moment, I felt like Fnatic were in perfect control, but they just got the Baron too far down.
And they tried to do the same thing again, where they disengaged to avoid the steal. But because Odama TP's into the pit and the Baron did not reset, he actually gets in range to just feast it in. Fabian with a 5-man ulti just to make sure the Fnatic will not chase.
And the Baron was at 1,682 HP. Odoamne pressed R, and it was gone. There's no way you're going to outsmite that. There's nothing that you can do about it. The most obnoxious thing about the Cho'Gath is that threat around the Baron.
The question is, how much can H2K get back while they have this Baron buff up? They are still behind Fnatic. Triple Infernos are going to count against them, but this is a much better look than they've had for the rest of the game.
They finally got IH completed for Nuclear. It's taken quite a while for him to get there, but he can actually start dealing some serious damage. But Fabian, of course, is the main carry on this Orianna here. Death cap should be ready for him fairly soon. Sitting on 1,600 gold at the moment. Need a bit more.
I think you need about 2550 if you've only got the... oh no, never mind. Now for H2K, they can just continue to stall if they need to. Yeah, I've just completely forgotten how much.
Rule number one, don't do math on cast.
No, I'm pretty sure it's 2550 if you've only got the Rod of Ages.
Needlessly large rod.
Yeah, that one, yeah. I don't remember words.
It's full price if you only have a rod of Ages.
Regardless, now H2K, they can just continue to stall out. They don't need to force anything right now. They want to wait a little bit longer to complete a few extra items. Exactly the death cap.
It's a big one.
That's the SG.
There's no one in the mid lane.
Oh.
Minions. Effective farming.
Those minions didn't see it coming, but H2K will. Malphite comes in, so he's going to keep the fight going. Voicelite comes out. Goodbye to Che. Reckless now on a rampage. He's going to leap forward. Looking for the Sweden, looking for the rinse and repeat.
Odoamne was in the top lane. He did not have his teleport. Fnatic saw the opportunity to punish the 4-man unit of H2K. They find a successful collapse, and now their eyes are on this mid-tier too.
Reckless just leaping forward, ready to auto-attack anyone who comes into his line of sight, but for now it's going to be the tower. Fnatic keeps their focus on. Even with a Baron buff in the hands of H2K, they are still making moves on the map.
I mean, that's the thing. H2K is still behind in terms of items here. They've just been defending very well. They've been constantly pressuring Fnatic off the Baron, and as you highlighted, Vedis, the fact that Fnatic never really got to push H2K all the way back towards their own base allowed this potential thing to happen, and obviously with the Feast, it worked for H2K, but they're still looking at this Elder Drake. Triple Infernal and an Elder Drake spawning. You cannot afford to give it over to Fnatic. There's still the Feast Smite combo for H2K. It's just a fight from before here where Fnatic knows there's a Cho'Gath top lane.
Yeah, and that was just a bit of a greedy move from Che. You can't really afford to go that deep to get vision. Putting some wards around the river is fine as Reckless has got blood in his eyes.
So as is here on the flank, but is he the one that's going to get picked off? It doesn't look like they have enough damage on the side of H2K. Nuclear with no armor pen. In goes Caps. Common of Legend, both carries are fighting together. Jez is in the middle of everything. Shockwave pulls back, but it's only going to hit a tank. It does not matter. Eyes on Reckless. He is still up. Feast does not matter. All of Fnatic just doing whatever they want to this H2K lineup. That's going to be the triple.
And Fnatic find a huge team fight in H2K's jungle. Started off by Reckless, the TP flank in from Soaz. Without the Baron, it does not matter. They find the successful fight, and they're going to find the base of H2K.
Yeah, H2K, they move down, they place all these deep wards around the Elder Drake. They're trying to set up for that fight, and then suddenly Soaz appears behind them with the teleport, and all in happens. Nuclear cannot get away, and H2K, they just lose that fight so quickly.
The surprise tree is always the deadliest as Fnatic look to end the game.
Fnatic pushing in. Dominant start to the game and a dominant close with one final team fight. H2K had a few shots. They fought back once or twice, but it was not enough here in game one. Fnatic moving forward. They're going to take the edge in this series with the game one win.
And they definitely slowed down once we started playing around the Baron. Fnatic tried to make sure that no steal could happen. Disengage from Baron whenever H2K showed up. You know, try and take the fight instead. But H2K were actually doing a fine job of just constantly, you know, stopping the Baron and not go for the team fight. They eventually even got the Baron with the Cho'Gath Feast, but every single fight in the entire early game was so heavily in favor of Fnatic that there was very little H2K could actually do in this game.
And we need to see a change from H2K. Get that bottom lane on a different matchup. Like, I thought the Sivir was fine into the Tristana. I think, like, in a matchup sense, it's fine, but
don't give Alistar when you play Sivir. you will always get engaged. You literally cannot avoid it. You stand there, you're like, I'm gonna spell shield this guy. Ah, it was his headbutt. I got knocked up anyway. I'm even doing a little jump here, just signal I got knocked up.
He pantomimes everything, guys. He pantomimes. You don't see it on camera. But I think you're right.
They got so punished by it.
Regardless of the picks, they can't afford to die like that, no matter what happens. And I think the thing is, from what we saw from H2K playing in the mid to late game, if they had not been at such a major deficit, this could have been a very, very close game. But Fnatic started building that lead and just kept building that lead over the course of the game.
The only part that I would slightly dispute about that is largely because of Caps' roaming. He was allowed to roam a lot to the top side, but he also had the ability to roam down to the bot as well.
He could have done that, yeah.
So I think that Caps was a big contributor to also the early success of Fnatic.
Definitely fair to say. Well, Fnatic got first blood against H2K. Let's head over to the analyst desk for the full breakdown.
Very interesting game one that we followed on here with the analyst desk, and my analyst was very outspoken about a lot of it. So let's dive straight in the early game. A fantastic start for Fnatic. We'll take a look at the replay. And Gilius, you just wanted to point out the fact that this wasn't a jungler involved here, that this was straight up personal 2v2 kills.
Exactly. This just shows like my point. Like I said, Reckless will carry the series today, and he's showing up. They're going for the 2v2 play, and they kill them. And just after killing them the first time, they kill them again here. They go on the Brom. It was just a very, very impressive performance by Reckless and Jesus this game.
Yeah, and still a possible liability in that bottom lane. Then on top of that, Caps with a very early roam. He loves that Aurelion Soul and gets another kill.
I think it's a classic, you know, like I think there's only 2 players that played Aurelion Soul into the Orianna. I think Senkus is also one. The beauty of it is Orianna is very strong in the early game. Aurelion Soul can outpush him and just roam, and on top of that, be very strong in the 2v2 later on in the mid lane. So I think Aurelion Soul is a fine pickup against Orianna, and for those sacrifices in mid lane, it worked out fine to gank the Cho'Gath for it.
It was fantastic, a great setup, but this is where the tricky part comes in, because you are Fnatic, you get those pure 2v2 kills that roam up in the top lane, you get a lot of gold on your team, you have a great team comp, you already have 2 kills on your Tristana, so you actually expect this game to go much faster than it did, so why do you think it slowed down so much, Gilius?
Yeah, I don't really like the decision-making of Fnatic in the mid to late game. Their Baron dance is really not that good. They are not going deep enough into the jungle. They're not choking out the enemy vision-wise. And H2K always has breathing room in the mid game. They can always come back. They can always go for the 50-50 Nash because Fnatic is just not playing the macro clean.
No, because they'll get a win in a fight here and then go for Baron, but they don't even get it and they're up against a Cho. So for a team that was starting off so well, Yamato, they completely lost the plot a bit in the mid-game.
I think the main thing is that they are setting up the 1-3-1 to put Tristana to push out the side lane. The moment Sivir shows up there to clear the wave, they need to be grouping up as 4 in mid lane and then cut off the enemy jungle completely. But they never did this. They were just pushing the waves. H2K was catching, and they were always sitting in their own jungle. So they could contest, they could fight, when in reality, Fnatic should be pushing into their outer turrets.
And if this Alistar was Miffy, they had a free Nash here. Like, I don't know what Jesus was doing. He was hitting the Nash with auto attacks instead of just going out, combo away the Sejuani or just W him away, and then you have a free Nash. But he was tunnel visioning on something else.
Yeah, we're going to see the actual steal now also, because the problem with this whole floundering about in the mid-game was that then you get to a situation where you have a 50-50, but against a Cho, that's not really a 50-50, Yamato.
No, it's crazy. Thinking about it, that they are just doing Nasher as if they're in some position where they have to force it. But in reality, like, sure, if this was a game where Fiora was 6-0 and pushing bot lane, taking you in, okay, you do this play, but there's nothing like that going on.
I mean, they play like they have a hurry, you know, like
they want to go home.
Yeah, you can just
eat some chicken or something.
Like
man.
As Yamato already said, just play for the tier 2 towers first. Remove all the towers from the map, and then get all the dragons. Get a good vision setup around the Nash, and then just take a free Nash. But these teams are not patient enough.
Yeah, and the reason why I think we are being so hard on it, even though they end up winning the game, is because yesterday, H2K got absolutely stomped by the Unicorns of Love, who had lesser sense of macro, right, throughout the series. So it's a bit worrying if you see Fnatic struggling in the mid-game. If you imagine them not having as big of a lead, it might become very difficult against H2K to close out the series.
I definitely agree. Like, so the problem for H2K was the RNG was in Fnatic's favor. They had an early lead bot lane, and then Infernal Drakes were coming over and over. They had triple Infernal, and they had Reckless on Tristana, so they had no real chance to come back in the late game. I
think the main thing is that everyone by now should accept that Reckless will win bottom. And I think this is a fair assessment. I think Fnatic won purely on mechanical skill. And the main thing is, for me, is from H2K's perspective, is that they're playing a Cho'Gath Maokai matchup top lane. Very inactive in the jungle. Mid lane, Aurelion Sol is going to be pushing. So the main thing for H2K, if they want to have any chance at all, is that they have to be able to compete from top side and be ahead in this race of getting ahead, because Brox is very good at playing around bottom, Reckless is getting advantages. Something needs to happen at top side.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they should stop letting Reckless get Tristana as well. Just remove the Kalista and Tristana from Reckless, put him on something normal that can't like absolutely 1v9 the game, and then H2K can come back maybe.
Well, that was also what we were looking at. We saw the early game, we're like, okay, it's over. You know, Tristana's got these kills, his best champ. Why would you give Reckless Tristana? The mid game came, and then Gilly said, it's going to happen. He has that Essence Reaver. It's going to happen. And we're going to take a look at the final fight, because Reckless is done. He just jumps in, he jumps forward, and he just wants to end this game.
Yeah. I mean, he just has triple Inferno right now, a lot of items, just jumping in. And we see a great TP flank from Soaz. He gets on Nuclear. And now they're just chasing them down. Nuclear is out of the fight right now. He's super low. And now, yeah, they're just cleaning up now. Reckless is doing a lot of damage here.
He is. He's stepping up and getting that also when they were so far ahead, but they slowed down. Gilly, as you said, if this was Giants Gaming with me, we would have finished that in 5 minutes.
Whatever team I'm on, the game time, whenever I have a lead, the game time is always 24 minutes, 25 minutes, because I know how to call the mid game. So, yeah, I hope they can step up their shot calling.
We'll see. So, Yamato, going into game 2 for H2K, it's not a man overboard. It doesn't feel like complete chaos or destruction, but what do you think they have to change for game 2 to win it?
I feel like something, Nara needs to be in the open. I think Odoamne on Nara is something good. Also, if he can play in some counter matchups into Nara, that's also very good. I want an explosive matchup. Jankos is a lot better than Brox at setting up those top lane plays. I remember this one game specifically, we saw the Renekton Sejuani combo that just one-shot, I think it was the Elise of Broxa, and I want to see more of this. I want to see a top lane-centric player where Odoamne is on a carry, not the Cho'Gath Maokai matchups, because that is where Soaz excels, and I want there to be fire in the top.
I want there to be fire. Well, Fnatic, they're looking to make a return to the international stage. We'll see if they can build on their lead when we return.